My name's Alex Grainer, and this is going to be my quick walkthrough for my mock level design mission for EA's Battlefront 2, where you play as Kylo Ren on Endor, retrieving Darth Vader's helmet. And if you're not familiar with Kylo Ren or Battlefront 2's mechanics for Kylo Ren, he essentially has his lightsaber swing, his blocking, as well as a lightsaber frenzy where he can hack and slash with high damage. He also has two force abilities: a force freeze, freezing things in the air as well as enemies, and also a force pull, pulling enemies and objects towards him. And if you're not, I'll link a description to a Battlefront 2 gameplay so you have a better feeling for Kylo Ren going forward, as this is what this mission is designed for mechanic-wise. So, following the theory that Kylo Ren led an assault on Endor against the Ewoks to retrieve Darth Vader's helmet as seen as Force Awakens, this is what that mission follows. And since there isn't too much about that theory officially, I had some wiggle room for some of my own creative twist on it. So this is my take on the Kylo Ren onslaught of the Ewoks to retrieve Darth Vader's helmet and take revenge for what they did against the Empire in the end of Return of the Jedi. So, after some bombings and stormtrooper assaults on the ground already, Kylo Ren lands in the forest of Endor to finish the job and collect his asset. And this is going to be the first area of that mission. So Kylo Ren lands on a ship, as seen here, in the forest. And the first thing he'll see is stormtroopers huddled over dead Ewoks, a hole on fire, symbolizing that's how the Ewoks get around, since they have their own tunnels and they know the forest of Endor like the back of their hand. So kind of preparing the player for ambushes and visualizing how the Ewoks attack and ambush. There will also be surrendered and captured rebel forces, and the stormtroopers will tell Kylo Ren that resistance fighters have stayed on Endor following the events of Return of the Jedi and helped the Ewoks survive. And they are trying to protect the Ewoks during this assault. So, being the edgy, emotionally driven guy Kylo Ren is, he looks forward to the fight, and he can either kill these hostages, prisoners now, or he can just leave them be. Following the path, he'll get into the more dense area of the forest and kind of into the Ewok territory. And then once the player gets around here, these 5 Ewoks in the front here will pop out of the foliage and start rounding up their rock weapons they use in the movies, as well as their Ewok hunt mode in Battlefront 2. And a prompt will come up, not a quick time event, but a prompt for the player's force ability will come up. So when these Ewoks throw their rock things, the player can freeze them in the air, as well as the Ewoks themselves, and then slaughter them that way. Even if the player misses the prompt, he even getting hit by these rocks will stun him at best, because the big thing I want to focus on in this mission is making the player feel powerful, emotionally driven to kill the Ewoks and get revenge for what they did against the Empire. Really put the player in Kylo Ren's emotional shoes, to say. So as he continues, more Ewoks will come from the top, jump down, kind of rush the player as he progresses. And then you'll see these ones are covered in red. That means they are close-ranged enemy types. So they'll charge the enemy, or charge the player and try and stab them with their spears. And then with the yellow ones, as seen on the resistance fighters over there, that means they are long-ranged enemy types. So the Ewoks will have bow and arrows, and the rebels will have blasters. So continuing, 2 Ewoks will emerge from a hut door, also symbolizing how Ewoks get around, and a little look into their culture and what to look out for going forward in the mission. And then the player will get to this door. Right now, it's just a no collision, so you'll just walk through it. But in the final version, the player will destroy it or use his force abilities to get through it. So once you're through the door, the first thing you'll see are the 3 Ewoks up there. Swarm that platform, blow their iconic Ewok horn or alarm, and then they'll charge the player with their wingsuits. And then when they get close enough, drop rocks on the player that will mildly stun them, take away a little damage. But the player can take these guys out real easily by using the force abilities or just jumping up and hash and slashing them. So following the path, once he continues a bit, these Ewoks will emerge from their holes and charge the player for the player to take out. As he continues, these Ewoks will scatter, and an ATST will come through, blasting some of the Ewoks and forcing the others to run away, like in the movies. These ones will run right into Kylo Ren for him to take out. And there is also the main objective for this mission is obviously for the player to obtain Darth Vader's remains. But the side objective for an achievement or trophy would be to slaughter all the Ewoks. And there are going to be some Ewoks hidden and scouring from the player in this mission for them to find. And I will point those out here shortly. So, run away from the Ewoks will be these, a few Ewoks that run into this cave, and Kylo Ren will go down there as the AT-ST cannot. And then this brown texture on enemy types also symbolizes death, so those are dead AI. So if you go down to this little cave, you'll see the Ewoks run up that stone ramp up there and kind of huddle up there, preparing for the player to attack. But if the player takes the time to go over here, and I'll put some audio cues over here in the final version ideally, there will be a collapsed tunnel, and these Ewoks will be trapped on this side with Kylo Ren for him to take out. And then heading back, he'll go up to these Ewoks up here and take them out. And then once the player exits the cave, he'll come across these. There will be 3 rebels shooting an AT-ST walker, and the AT-ST walker will blow them away. And then with the attention on the AT-ST, it will start coming into this area, and the player can see these logs as seen in the movie that destroyed the AT-STs in Return of the Jedi. So using the freeze ability, the player can freeze the logs as they come down and about to hit the walker. But even if the player misses to do that, ideally, since the First Order being more equipped to take out the Ewoks and better equipped than the Empire was, their AT-STs, even if hit, will not be destroyed, but rather just be knocked a little around, and then it will continue walking. So, and then the AT-ST will stop in this area here, and it will not further assist the player. So as the player makes his way over here, more ambushing Ewoks for the player to take out, and this is the first instance of rebel forces for the player to engage with. And then their attention will be on a little skirmish over there with stormtroopers, so the player can just sneak up behind them and take them out and kind of do a surprise attack. And if you come over here, it's a downed AT-ST with some stormtroopers fighting rebel resistance. So following the path, more ambushing Ewoks. And now we are getting close to the Ewok homeland, so where Luke and the gang was almost barbecued, and where the celebration was at the end of Return of the Jedi. Because in the movie, Luke was burning Darth Vader, and then the next moment he caught up with his friends on the Ewok platform. So the burial site must not be far from the home world or homeland territory of the Ewoks. So following that theory, this is the area that was bombed. So the player will kind of, to further that anger emotion and powerful emotion, to finish off and truly slaughter the Ewoks, will be in their destroyed kind of village. So once the player goes down this straight, he'll see more Ewoks up top blowing their horn and then charge him with the wingsuit, kind of alerting surrounding forces, and the player will take them out as previous. And then 3 rebels will turn the corner and start blasting the player, and he can deflect or use his force abilities and take them out. And then if the player takes the time to go over here, he'll see like a little Ewok hut, a hobbit looking thing. And if using lightsaber or force abilities, he can destroy the door. And if you see inside, there's a few Ewoks hiding. So if the player destroys the door, those Ewoks will come running out, and the player can kill those Ewoks that were trying to hide from the violence. So once the player turns the corner here, and this is also supposed to be a downed AT-ST or AT-AT from the Return of the Jedi days. Obviously, it doesn't look it, but I'll add more vegetation to it to show that it's been there for a while. So once the player turns the corner here, more rebel forces, Ewoks following behind for the player to take out, and an Ewok over here helping injured and dead Ewoks out of a collapsed hut will also come to attack the player. So now we are getting into the Ewoks' destroyed homeland. You'll see the bigger platforms, clapped trees, and stuff like that. And all of these Ewoks will be shocked and awed by the destruction and death of their surrounding comrades, as they're a very emotional species as seen in the movies. So out of anger and fear, all these Ewoks will concentrate their attack on the player once they get close enough for the player to take out, surrounded by all this destruction. And then these 3 enemies will turn the corner for the player to take out. And now we get to this Ewok group where they'll be hugging their dead friends like as seen in the movies. And then these Ewoks will not attack the player, just kind of as they've lost all hope. The player can still kill them if they like for that side objective, or just leave them be. And then he'll reach this final area. And this is where the one in blue is the tribe leader, so he is kind of like the mini boss for this area. And what he is, he's a bit faster. He has slightly more health than the other Ewoks. But to make the players still feel powerful, this is a kind of last stand for the Ewoks and their tribe. There's a few projectile-based enemy types, and then all these Ewoks will charge the player for the player to take out, but using his force abilities and his lightsaber, that is no contest at all. And then more Ewoks will join the fight as the player progresses and kills Ewoks. And then once all them are destroyed, then the player will continue down this path, and this will be the end of the mission over here. And I was thinking about having some rebel troops over here, kind of as a reminder, like them saying, "What have you done?" Just kind of making the player trying to make the player feel guilty, and then the player can just kill them or something like that. But over here would be kind of a blocked off area, because this is where Darth Vader was buried, and the Ewoks would try and block it off to make it a sacred or kind of evil place for no one to go into. So you just destroy this gate and go on through, and this is where Luke burned Darth Vader, ideally. So in the distance is Endor and fire, kind of show farther emphasize all the anger and destruction that Kylo Ren and the player has endured to get to this moment, and Kylo Ren finally meets his long lost grandfather and collects the remains of Darth Vader, as you have seen in Force Awakens. And once the player collects the helmet, it will end the mission, and more bombs and blasting of Endor will continue, ideally ending the Ewok species on this planet. So that is the quick walkthrough, and in my free time I continue to work on this level as much as I can, but it is a mock level design, so ideally having some functional events happen, some moving parts, but not actual working gameplay, as I'm just trying to work with scale and single player pacing. So if you have any feedback, I would love to hear it. Please contact me or leave it in the comment section. But once I get to a more polished state, I will make an updated video. But thank you for watching. Thank you.